But unlike what Field of Dreams tells us, sometimes if you build it, they do not come. And one of the areas where we have lag that's not going as well as we might hope, where we need to focus, is to increase the adoption of and migration to those core infrastructure services. And I'd say there's a few reasons why we are not making the same progress on that we might have hoped. The first is that we need to make sure that the services are very easy to use, transparent, easy to migrate to and to adopt. And so, for example, that's one of the reasons that we created the newest of the core infrastructure services, the data services architecture, in order to make the clouds both easier to use and more interoperable. Another reason why I think our adoption of the core infrastructure services has lagged somewhat is because we have to make sure that they're broadly available. And I mean that both in terms of geographically as well as across multiple domains. For the first several years of iSight, we've really focused on the TS-SCI domain, and we focused largely on services being available CONUS, and even more specifically within the Washington metropolitan area. But clearly, most of our colleagues, our partners, our customers don't live on the TS-SCI fabric alone within the Beltway in DC. So we need to make sure that the iSight services are available on secret and unclassified levels as well as appropriate, and that they're available with full capability and without latency out west and overseas as well. And so we've been working on that. We've got a multi-fabric initiative underway to identify what services we might want to bring to the secret and unclassified sides, and Secret C2S will be launching in November. We're also looking at global hosting architecture to ensure that our services are available around the world. So that's one of the ways that I think the reasons that we're lagging. The last one I would say is safeguarding. And it's not in terms of the technical ability that we have to keep data secure and to ensure we tag the data, tag the people, and that only the right people see the right data at the right time. It's really more about building trust in those capabilities. We've demonstrated time and time again through multiple capabilities and pilots that we truly can keep data secure and safeguard our networks. What we really need to do is ensure, well, first we need to keep testing and demonstrating that, but to ensure that everybody around the community and everybody who's using us has that trust in those safeguarding and secure capabilities so that they feel comfortable putting their most secure data there. So for this first reason, the first way that things are going well but not going well, I think that what that really points to is that it's not enough to build great services that have tremendous capabilities. They also have to be easy to use, they have to be broadly available, and we have to have trust in them. There's a couple of other sort of things are going well but areas that I'd mention. One is that we've had some really impressive mission success stories through the mission user group campaigns and through a number of activities happening with the services and with different IC elements. What we haven't done as great a job at, the but, is communicating those stories and ensuring that folks around the IC and DoD really understand what capabilities there are, what's available to them, and how those might translate into the problems that they're trying to solve. We haven't really figured out how to take these great case studies, these great capabilities that we've demonstrated, and turn them into something that we can work at scale. And that's where we'll really hit that tipping point. And then the third area where I think something really important and interesting has been happening with iSight is our ability to think as an enterprise and our ability to work as if we are one intelligence community. So I would say I've been in OD&I since almost the beginning for about 12 years, and I don't think I've ever seen an interagency group that thought as corporately as much like one team as the team that we've got sitting up here right now. Increasingly, so we've also got great partnership at the agency deputies levels with our CDOs and up and down the scale. Increasingly, we really do have widespread buy-in to the idea that data is an IC asset and that we should do in common what is commonly done. So that's really exciting. The downside is we're not really, while we're thinking like that, we're not necessarily structured to act like that yet. Every agency, every element has its own policies, its own culture, its own language. In some ways, we're almost divided by a common language when we all think we're talking about something called systems, and we all have a different definition for systems. We've got bilateral sharing agreements that don't take into account other agencies. So what's going very well there is that while we're increasingly thinking as one enterprise across agency and entity and element boundaries, it's still difficult for us to actually operate that way, and that's something that's going to take a while. So I think the bottom line for all of this, a big lesson learned for me, is that we have to think of iSight itself as a sort of agile development. that the fundamental objectives that we had set for eyesight, which is that we want to increase integration and information sharing, to ensure safeguarding and security of our networks and data, and to increase efficiency, those strategic objectives are as fundamentally important today as they were when we set them in 2012. And then our basic principles of data as an IC asset, tag the data, tag the people, do in common what is commonly done, all of that is still valid today. What might be changing is how we thought we were going to achieve all of those, because technology has changed over the last 5, 6, 7 years, as well as our understanding of how we work together and how we interact with that technology. So we need to hold true to the principles and to the strategic objectives we had set for ourselves when we embarked on eyesight, and maybe not get too hung up on the exact ways that we thought that we were going to get there. So that's just a few thoughts on what's going well and maybe what's not going quite as quickly as we had hoped.
Great. A few follow-on questions, if I may. Are there things that should be done at the IC enterprise level that are currently not occurring?
I think the next frontier in terms of what we want to address at the enterprise level goes beyond enterprise IT, where we've been focusing our efforts so far. And that's to get into business systems, to start looking at financial management, human capital, our acquisition services. And these are things that are not necessarily in the purview of our CIOs that are sitting up here, but it's kind of the obvious next step if you look at the areas where we really can achieve greater efficiency, security, and integration. And increasingly, we're all using for a lot of these services similar products and platforms, and increasingly, we're putting them onto C2S. And so it sort of begs the question, why are we sort of paying for the same product and the same capability multiple times and then having it next to each other, if you will, within the same cloud, instead of pooling